Hey guys, welcome to the Geek Talk. Today I want to discuss the Harry Potter duels in the movies and why I think they are less than successful. My main issue with the fights in the movies is that they always feel like gunfights, rather than fights between witches and wizards who can do pretty much anything with their wands. For example, the Deathly Hallows duel between Snape and McGonagall is way more interesting in the books than it is in the movie. In the books, McGonagall is actually using her environment to fight Snape. First, she uses a torch on the wall to just use the flame to attack Snape directly, but then when that doesn't work, she changes it into a black serpent, as she is a transfiguration teacher, and then when that doesn't work, she changes that black serpent into multiple daggers to hit Snape. And what does Snape do to respond? He charms a suit of armor to defend himself. He animates a suit of armor to come between him and McGonagall to protect himself from those daggers. Now, when we look at the movie, it's just simply this. Pretty boring, or at least in my opinion, especially when you read the books and see how much they can do with their wands. To see them just going fling, fling, fling with like flame coming out the wand and Snape defending it and redirecting it, it's really not that interesting. And it's not like Hogwarts students aren't trained to do different things with their wands. If we look at the first duel between Harry Potter and Draco, Draco conjures up a snake, and that is something that you would want to do to distract your opponent. You want to use both direct and indirect attacks, and that's where the more dynamic aspect of wand dueling would come into effect. Half of the curriculum of charms, transfiguration, defense against the dark arts, all stem around these different curses and hexes and charms that can be used effectively in a fight. That's why students learn how to make smoke screens, freezing spells, counter curses, all these different things. I always felt that the Harry Potter duels in the movies should have looked more like the card games of Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, where you're always playing different kinds of spells, or in the case of the card games, minions. And what's happening there is that there is a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer of distraction. It's always spell counter, spell counter, spell counter, until one of the other witches or wizards finds a better pattern or finds a better way of subverting their opponent, rather than just waving their wand harder and screaming louder. That's why there's things like counter curses and anti-jinxes. And just overall, these kids go to school to learn all these hexes, charms, and otherwise, just so they can do gunfights later? I don't think so. It should be about transfiguring your surroundings. They should be conjuring up distracting hexes, sort of like Ginny Weasley does in the books, with the Bat Bogey hex, which she's really infamous for in Hogwarts. And the simple nature of that hex is that you make someone's boogers turn into bats. And it's not like that one charm actually defeats your opponent, but it does distract them. It's kind of similar to how Ron was trying to hit Draco with the slugs, like, eat slugs, Draco. It's not so that you can necessarily defeat them in that one go, but it's a layer. Again, it's a layer to distract them so that you have these setups, and then the payoff later would be those stunning charms, or, the body binds or the silence charms and things like that. They shouldn't start with the stunning charms or the other more direct charms. You should start off with the indirect charms. The one duel that I think in the entire franchise gets the Harry Potter duels right is Dumbledore versus Voldemort. Now, I get that these are the best wizards in the world. We will of course see them doing all these very cool and dynamic things. But of course, they're doing it at a much larger scale. When Voldemort has his serpent, his flame serpent, which might be Fiendfire, it's this huge thing that's like the entire space of the atrium. And then with Dumbledore, he just completely drains out the fountain and just completely envelops Voldemort in that water ball. But what I would like to see in these other duels is that we still have the same versatile charms work going on, transfiguration, charms work, hexes, but on a smaller scale. Whenever we see other wizards fight, it's always just really quick wand flourishes and then just bright lights, and nothing else is really going on. And it can be a little bit more creative than that when there's, like I said, you could do whatever you want with a wand. You can do more than just make lights flash and then, maybe stun your opponent. In the book Order of the Phoenix, Ron is attacked by flying brains. When you hear about students getting into fights at Hogwarts, you don't just hear them being stunned. Their legs are locked, they're belching slugs, they're silencing their opponents, or their teeth are longer, or you're putting them in a full body bind, or I don't know, there's just so much. There's so much that can be done besides pew pew pew, I can wave my wand harder than you can. Funny enough though, the one time that I don't like one of the big fancy duels is the one between Harry and Voldemort at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2. In the book, it's a lot more about the conversation between Voldemort and Harry Potter. And I feel like that's something else I think the movies kind of fell short on, is that final confrontation. So funny enough, one time that they actually do have like a duel where there's a lot of dynamic stuff going on, Voldemort has like his robes like flinking out at Harry and like choking him. And there's a lot more going on in that fight, except for at the beginning where it's just like Avada Kedavra, shield charm, Avada Kedavra, shield charm, like over and over again. Is the one time I'm like, no, there shouldn't be like a crazy dynamic fight. But yeah, generally speaking, I just like most of the fights in the Harry Potter movie franchise are really, really not interesting. And they could be a lot more interesting, especially when we think about what these characters are. They're witches and wizards that can do just about anything. They can appear and reappear anywhere they want to. And we also see this a little bit in Fantastic Beasts. We do see a lot more apparition at play within the duel. Newt Scamander was disapparating away from Grindelwald, or I forget the guy, Graves was his name, the guy that he was impersonating. But then again, at the end of that duel, it just came down to like, let me see who can wave their wand harder. Like when Grindelwald was just going ham with his lightning stuff like on the railroad and Newt was just there defending, I felt like, okay, where's the actual wizardry here? Where is it? It's just fling, 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 flash, flash, flash. And I feel like we could get more than just that. But that's it, guys. Sorry for the rant. This usually is a little bit more structured, but I just wanted to just get this off my chest, off the top of my head. And yeah, what do you guys think? Did you guys like the movie duels in Harry Potter, or did you think they were a little bit lacking? I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, love, and mischief managed.